Yo, what is up guys? It's Hycross and welcome to another mouse review. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing the EWEADN S9 Max. Now, in a previous video, I believe 2 videos ago, I reviewed the EWEADN S9 Ultra, and this video is going to be a lot of comparisons to the S9 Ultra compared to the S9 Max, all right? I'm going to be doing a lot of comparisons. Just know for the sake of this video that the S9 Ultra is the red mouse, and the S9 Max is this super glossy, really cool color parrot green mouse. This is going to be the mouse that we will be reviewing in this video. So with that said, make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and let's get right into the video. All right, boys, so EWEADN has sent me out the S9 Max, and straight off the bat, just take a look at this gaming mouse. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. Incredibly sleek design. Like, this color is just incredible. The official color of this is parrot green, and it has this really glossy coat on it. Very, very nice, super shiny. And the glossy coat actually creates a really smooth grip feel on the mouse. It creates very grippy feel without any grip tape or anything like that. However, this might not be your cup of tea, and I will get into that later on in the review. So let's just start off. We already talked about the color and design. Let's talk about what we get in the box. So straight out the box, very, very simple stuff. You're obviously going to get your EWEADN S9 Max gaming mouse. On top of that, you're also going to get your EWEADN 8K Hertz receiver. So this is going to be able to give you 8K Hertz polling. And that is a USB-C to USB-A receiver. The USB-A obviously plugs into your PC. And yeah, this gives you the opportunity to connect to 8K Hertz wireless polling, which is really, really cool. That is starting to become the new norm for gaming mice in 2025. On top of that, they also sent some extra grip tape. It's kind of in this slight green, kind of earthy tones color. I really like it. It's not like the standard black grip tape that you have on it. And then they also have some extra mouse skates there for you. It's really, really cool there. That's just what comes in the box. Very simple stuff, nothing special there. I really like simple packaging. So yeah, let's get into the design and build and how it compares to the EWEADN S9 Ultra. So starting off, this mouse comes in at around 59 to 60 grams. That is about 5 to 6 grams lighter than the S9 Ultra, even though this is called the S9 Max. Originally, when I heard they were going to be sending me the S9 Max, I originally thought that it was going to be a little bit on the heavier side. However, it is actually 5 to 6 grams lighter, which is very, very surprising, and I'm a big fan of the lighter weight. Now, in my opinion, 60 grams, 59 grams, that's not necessarily considered a lightweight mouse anymore. However, it is really good for aim. I know a lot of people might not necessarily go for super light gaming mice because you could have actually more controlled aim when aiming with a mouse that's around 60-65 grams, because that could help keep your mouse grounded on your mouse pad, especially if you have a higher sense, you want kind of a heavier mouse. Now, the dimensions of the S9 Max are almost identical to that of the S9 Ultra, coming in at 127 millimeters long, 65 millimeters wide, and 41 millimeters tall. It is almost exact. I tried looking it up on Elo Shapes. However, Elo Shapes doesn't seem to have the EWEADN S9 Max in there, probably because it is near identical. Like, it is the exact same specs, just a 5-gram difference in weight. So honestly, nothing really crazy there, but Elo Shapes does not have it in their system yet. I tried looking and I could not find anything, so that is that. Let's talk about the sensor and performance. So they weren't crazy clear on the sensor that comes in this mouse. On their website, they have the PAW3395/3950 Ultra. I'm assuming the PAW3950 goes with the S9 Ultra, and the S9 Max has the PAW3395. Nonetheless, it's still a very, very powerful sensor. For the max DPI, you can get up to 26,000 DPI, and the polling rate, you can get 1,000 to 8K Hertz polling with that USB wireless receiver there. The tracking speed, you could also get up to 750 IPS. So for connectivity and battery, I'll kind of show you guys on the bottom here. They kind of make it very, very easy. So obviously in the middle, that is going to be off for the mouse. At the top, you're going to get your 2.4 gigahertz wireless connection. And if you switch it to the bottom, you're going to get that Bluetooth connection, as well as having that DPI button that you can select on the bottom right over here. So you guys can play around with the DPI, play around with your connectivity. If you prefer to use Bluetooth rather than the 2.4 gigahertz connection, you guys can play around with that. For the battery, it has a built-in 500 mAh rechargeable battery delivering around 80 hours of continuous use. On 1000 hertz polling, you're going to get a lot less if you're using 8K hertz polling. All right, boys, now let's talk about the software. So EWEADN actually has an online web-based software for the S9 Max. So I'm actually going to switch my screen and show you guys that right now. All right, and I'll actually hide my screen as well. Let's go with that and take away the subs. Okay, so yeah, what you're looking at, obviously you guys have to have your EWEADN S9 Max connected. But once we have that connected, you'll see that we have like our little device center and it shows you all your other devices. I'm honestly not sure if this also works with the S9 Ultra. However, in their email that they sent to me, they said that the S9 Max has an online web-based software. Compared to, there was an actual like installation app that you had to download onto your desktop. And it was an application instead of a web-based. I always will prefer web-based softwares though. So yeah, what you guys want to do is when you see your mouse, you're just going to click once to click into it. And at first, all this was in, I believe Chinese was the language. All you guys have to do is go down here to setup and then go down to language settings and just check English. And then you can hit quit. And then yeah, once English is popped up, this is where you guys can play around with everything. It's pretty user-friendly in my opinion. Obviously, you have all your buttons. You guys can play around with that, customize everything if you would like. For DPI, you got all the way up to 26,000 DPI. Obviously, I play with 800 DPI, but I know some people use 1600. And then for your response rate, as you can see right now, I'm using 8K hertz polling. However, you guys can play around with that, switch to 2K, 4K, etc. And then there is the LOD. You can play around with the millimeters with that as well. You also have macro sections. You guys can play around with any macros if you guys want to set macros for the mouse. And then you have your device. So this is going to, you can play around with your debounce, your hibernation settings, straight line correction, what your connection mode. It shows you your device model, etc. So there's a bunch of different things you could play around with. I really like how it shows your device battery as well in the top left corner here. So yeah, in my opinion, it's very user-friendly. I'm actually a big fan of the software and it's nothing too crazy. Let's get to my personal experience with this mouse and would I recommend it over the S9 Ultra. So straight off the bat, this mouse is being marketed as a budget alternative to the Razer Viper V3 Pro, which is seen right here. They have near identical dimensions. However, I would still always recommend getting the Razer Viper V3 Pro just based on feel, performance. The Razer Viper V3 Pro is still the best gaming mouse on the market in my opinion. However, a lot of people may not have the budget to purchase the Razer Viper V3 Pro, and that is why EWEADN is marketing these gaming mice. They are both very, very similar in dimensions to the Razer Viper V3 Pro, and with the EWEADN S9 Max here, this offers a 5 gram reduction compared to the Ultra, as well as a very, very cool UV Nano glossy coating on the mouse, which I actually am a big fan of. You guys can take a look at the scroll wheel there. It pops out of the mouse pretty nicely, I would say. No problems with scroll wheel reset in game. I think it actually performed fairly well. However, I do have to nitpick. This mouse, the Max compared to the Ultra, I would definitely prefer the Ultra just based on the coating alone. I don't know really how to explain it, but the glossy coating, yes, it does give you a really good grip on the mouse. However, it almost feels like wet. If your hands get sweaty, it honestly feels really weird on the mouse. I just noticed that it started affecting the clicks and me placing certain builds. If you guys are going to be playing for a while and you know that your hands will get sweaty occasionally, I just feel like you might notice that your fingers are almost going to stick to the mouse in a weird way, and it's going to affect your builds and just your overall in-game performance. I'll throw some gameplay up on the screen while I talk about this. I did get some footage of me playing with this mouse. I played decent, however, I just didn't like how the coating feels on my hands. It just felt really strange, and I just wasn't a fan of it. And honestly, I really did not feel a huge difference with that 5 gram reduction versus the Ultra. And on top of that, I tried using the mouse on 8K hertz polling, and there was severe frame drops in game. All the footage that you guys are seeing was filmed on 8K hertz polling. So it did hold up for the most part. However, there was severe frame drops as I got into fights, and it just became kind of like a miserable experience overall. So again, I don't think my PC can run 8K hertz polling on any gaming mouse. So I bumped it down to 2K hertz, and again, it was completely fine. So if you guys are purchasing this mouse strictly for 8K hertz polling, I would strongly advise against that. I do not think that that is the smart move, but yeah. The Max compared to the Ultra, I would have to go with the Ultra. I just am not a fan of this glossy coating. I think it looks fantastic, but overall I feel like it affected my gaming performance and it just was not the mouse for me. So to conclude this video, I want to talk about the price. So the price of the S9 Max in Parrot Green comes in at around $60 USD, which is actually around $5 cheaper than the S9 Ultra. You guys can get that right now on EWEADN's website. I'll have everything linked down in the description below if you guys want to pick that up. Again, I do think that both of these mice are great options. They're great budget options compared to the Razer Viper V3 Pro. If you guys do not have the money, but you still want that shape that everyone loves, then I would definitely consider picking up the Ultra over the Max. However, if you guys do think that you would prefer that glossy coating and you just want like a really cool looking mouse, it is only $60. That is actually a really good price, and you're getting some pretty decent specs out of it as well. So I'll have both of these mice listed down below. That will conclude this review of the EWEADN S9 Max gaming mouse in the glossy parrot green color. If you guys like this review, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this one. With that said, I will see you all in my next video. Peace.